Hey guys, how's it going? We are back, and boy, what an episode do we have this weekend to talk about X-97 recap, full of spoilers with Philip J. Urso. Thanks for being here, Philip. Oh my God, this was
Thank you.
such a good episode. I feel
So
like
good.
if anything, throughout this journey, it's been a lot of ups and downs through this X-97 relaunch, and we have been mostly impressed. But as we've come to learn, some episodes definitely have more of an impact than other episodes. And this episode definitely falls in that category. Would you like to share some of your initial thoughts?
Well, we keep going back to remember it because we really, remember it. And, just when we think that, that was the quintessential episode, I mean, it was a game changer for sure, but this was like, that just upped the ante big time, in my opinion, this week's. Tolerance is Extinction. That is the name of the episode, right? Part one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was,
Uh,
yeah, like even from the title, it was so satisfying on so many levels. Oh my God.
and we were warned on the showrunner's Instagram. He's like, it's just going to get bigger and better, or more intense. He'd actually called out on his Instagram episodes that he recommended from the original series to watch in preparation. I know you're not going to watch
No, no,
until.
no, no. Actually, I saw some clips watching some sort of recap, and they were showing clips from the original series, and I feel like I'm being drawn into it because I didn't realize, like, I love that you like I didn't know Mohawk Storm from the future was part of that, so that looks appealing to me. So
Yeah, love that. That's those two episodes are what spawned the idea for Age of Apocalypse. Even though Age of Apocalypse hit print first, but as you know, animated series are in production much more in advance than what is written and printed out in comic form. But the five episodes or the four different story arcs. Final Decision, which was the season finale of season one. Sanctuary Part One and Two, which was in season four. One Man's Worth Part One and Two, also season four, and Descent, which was a Sinister based episode, and the end of season five.
mhm.
He was just recommending, but I still get a feeling that you being the new viewer to these X-Men, you're not losing a lot in your enjoyment of it because it makes you want to go back and watch the first series, of course, but I don't think your lack of watching the first series is making you not enjoy the current series. Is that a correct statement?
That is a completely correct statement. Yeah, like I don't feel like I have to. I feel like it's kind of making me want to. I feel like it will be a good barometer because by the end of the season, I'm obviously going to be thirsty for more, and that would be a good way to satisfy my need for more X-Men. I mean, I definitely feel like it's going to have that effect. I mean, I feel like I've been there before with like other TV shows, you know what I mean? Coming in kind of late and then like revisiting whence it came. I feel like maybe Oz comes to mind from HBO or something.
I had watched that until about 5 or 6 years after it was canceled. So I'm with you.
Same,
And of course, I binged it. My brother gave me all his DVDs, and I
same.
just not stop. I did the same thing with Sex in the City. I didn't see it
Yes.
until after it was over.
Well, actually, an oddly a long time like Sarah Jessica Parker fan back from Square Pegs, and so I kind of followed her on most everything she did, and I was kind of a fan of Sex in the City from day one. So, um, oh my gosh, like I not to get into it, but have you watched the reboot at all? Like the and just
I have,
like that.
well, we should table that for afterward.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know
Let's
if
not.
people want that tangent
I
going
no
on.
no 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 no.
Totally
Let's not.
unrelated.
I don't want to kill the mood in the room because
Not at all. Because we've got
I
so much to talk about here. Because
I have
first
nothing
off,
but good things to say
no,
about this
I mean,
episode. It was so
one
good.
what I kind of hinted to you in PM earlier today was this is the first episode of an X-Men series that kind of scared me. This was like a horror movie almost mixed with sci-fi. This was like Terminator and Night of the Living Cyborgs, and
Yes, I think no, it had a very like scary, like kind of like zombie horror movie vibes to me.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was so menacing. It was like so creepy. I loved the homage to Mark Silvestri's Wolverine crucifixion with Magneto, even though it was sort of borderline, Honcho magazine cover with
Well, basically, now I have a new nickname after this episode, and it's Magspeedo.
Magspeedo. Oh my goodness, that is
If
so
that starts
hor-
trending, I need to get a trademark. That's mine.
hash. Wait, I feel like I should just flash it on the bottom of the screen if I can do that. Hashtag Magspeedo for sure. Like, oh my gosh, that is your hashtag.
That is totally my hashtag, and we'll get into that.
and
Like,
and you are welcome to it, but no, I know, like, it's making me feel a certain kind of way. I don't know, I have to say, and we'll get into it later, but I really, really, and I enjoyed it in the comic book too. At first I was so against Magneto being like the good guy and like running the school. It was like horrifying. I was just as horrified as the students were. And it was just damn good stories though. Oh my God, it's so good. You know
oh,
what I mean?
I loved it because it was such a great arc for him. And then, of course, they shot that all to hell, after Inferno, when they basically said it was his plan all along to infiltrate the X-Men and the New Mutants. And I'm like, what? Really?
I know, BS, right?
After
I'm
like three
sure
or four
Claremont.
years, this great character redemption arc, you're saying that it was a plot?
I agree with you. Like, I think I cry BS. I think that Magneto definitely as I cited Storm as like one of Claremont's great characters, and Magneto is definitely another one of his great characters. The arc that he put him through was amazing. It makes me kind of wonder how I feel like, do you think he was basically forced into returning Magneto into returning to villainy as a villain, with the Jim Lee book? Or do you
Well,
think that it was inevitable, or it was like do you think that's where Claremont wanted to go with that? Because I kind of don't. I think like
I
he
don't think
wrote the
it
hell
is,
out of it, but
because the revelation of Magneto's plot was not in a Claremont written issue. It was in New Mutant 75, which he did not write.
okay.
And that story arc of him, going to Hellfire Club meetings and this and that, and being the bad teacher that was grounding them and telling them they can't use their powers, that was all after Claremont had left New Mutants. So I don't think he had as much to say, much like he didn't have much to say about Madeline's fate, because, he didn't want what happened to Madeline to happen. He had to go
Mm-hmm.
with his Inferno issues, but, he wanted, Madeline to just be a red herring, as we've discussed before. So I
Yeah.
don't, and notice when he started getting Magneto back into Uncanny, Magneto was still kind of in that line where, he was, because he helped Rogue out. He saved her life. They started their mutual attraction to each other. And then, you find out that in X-Men 1 through 3, Claremont's Swan Song, which are, beautifully drawn and written, that,
Mm-hmm.
he comes to question all his decisions because of I want to call it Moira MacTaggart's genetic conditioning to him after he was resurrected. Because remember, he was de-aged to an infant or a baby, and then he was brought back to primo physical adulthood. That's why Magneto was like in his 30s physically, where Xavier is like pushing 60 or whatever back in the 90s.
Right. Right. Yeah, I know. I like how, I have, well, are you a Golden Girls fan or no?
Who isn't?
I know. Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of hit or miss, but I was hoping. But it's kind of like that episode where they freeze their heads and like Sophia's like, "Oh, it's the new thing, old bodies or old heads on young bodies." That's kind of like how Magneto is. Like he's so hot and then like got this great body and like but then
Yeah,
he's got like this long silver hair and like that's fine, but
Yeah, and I was like I said, I was having more feelings about those scenes with him than we should. It's a cartoon, for goodness sake.
I know. Yeah. I mean, good point, right? It's like, it's funny because when I started watching it, I guess the parental guidance description said extreme violence. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty heavy
But
for a for an X-Men cartoon. I mean, it very accurate, like you said, I felt like it was very horrific in a lot of ways. I mean, and kind of heavy, like the issues with, I don't know. Yeah, this isn't your grandma's X-Men 97. You know what I mean? This is,
so so did Trish Tilby like sign up for this program, or was
well,
she? What was going on there?
well, I felt like Beast. I like his bitchy quips to her. Like, what did he say? I didn't recognize you without your camera and your microphone
Yeah.
or whatever.
Was this just a get back at him thing where she's concerned, or was she forced into it? It would be interesting to see how that plays out.
Right. I mean, I would like to think that she's, got some honest intentions and she can come back as a possible love interest for him. But
Yeah, because I mean, we're supposed to believe these are all them, not their clones, or it's all those people being sentinelized.
oh yeah, I know, right? I know it's like, oh wow. Sometimes you have to, like, when you say it out loud, it sounds a little crazy sometimes.
But
I
it's
was
applicable.
there was a lot of fun visuals happening. I was very excited to see Nimrod. I always loved Nimrod, and especially drawn by John Romita Jr. in the X-Men comic book. Um, of course, do we want to talk about the gag moment? You know what I'm gonna say, right? Rachel Summers and her
Yes.
hound and the
Oh
full
my God. That was
hound
right.
face. You must
I
have
knew.
died.
I thought of you and Polaris right before that, and
Yes. Oh my God.
older Polaris,
Mature, sort of,
mature Polaris.
soccer
Um,
mom Polaris.
you had I think Doctor Doom is referred to, I think, in the credits as Latvian embassy person or something like that. He's not even listed as Doctor
Wow.
Doom. I'm like, is this a rights issue? Because I thought Marvel, Disney, like all owned everything now.
Well, they do. Like and that's interesting because with a doc or with a Fantastic Four reboot again, coming.
Reboot of the
Um,
reboot.
well, didn't they just do one not too long ago? But this one is like the first Marvel Studios Fantastic Four, so it should be good. I mean, let's hope. I feel like they have a lot riding on it, but isn't it like Emily Blunt and John Krasinski or
No,
Krasowski or
Pascal now. Remember, Krasinski's no longer
oh
a thing.
shit, okay,
He
never mind.
did Multiverse of Madness for that one off as a multiverse alternate universe version of Reed Richards.
I'm kind of all for Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. I think that's a good
Solid.
choice. Yeah, I like
Solid.
him as an. I mean, I enjoy him as an actor, but I feel like this is going to be this what we saw in this week's episode of the X-Men spoilers. Was the first appearance of Doctor Doom in the Marvel universe.
Yes, in the new MCU related Disney projects. Yes,
Exactly. Yeah.
and you
So
had
that's kind of
Zemo.
crazy.
We had Zemo. I took notes, of course.
Yeah, I did love seeing Baron Zemo. I can't lie.
We
That
got
was great.
we got a full shot of Spider-Man, where in the previous animated series you just saw like his arm or his shadow.
Loved
And
seeing Spider-Man. Conversely, I don't know why, like I wasn't as excited to see Captain America last week just because I thought, but I loved seeing Spider-Man. I feel like Spider-Man kind of just like is always welcome.
and he just makes more sense as an ally to the X-Men, because even though
Because
he's
he's
not,
on the fringe himself of
he's a
society.
mutate. He's got the although technically isn't Captain America sort of a mutate?
I feel like those are like slippery. Yeah, like once again, I don't
It was
know.
the altered.
But we could that's a whole like interesting subject on its own. Like if you want to look at the class system within the freaks or the fringe society or the mutants or even the mutates, like if you even look at like how Storm is probably like, looking down her nose at the Morlocks because they're grungy and they live in the sewers and
She
they
offered them
probably,
sanctuary.
well, no, I shouldn't say Storm, but like, like perhaps the
Emma,
prettier mutants. Emma, yeah, for sure. Emma seems like an elitist in that.
Colleen,
Yeah.
because she's. And we had two cameos by previously appeared villains in the animated series, Silver Samurai and Omega Red. Okay, let me just get away. I could not give 2 cents of a friggin' flying flippo whatever about Omega Red. I think he is generic and 90s, ugh, just regurgitated. I never could stand that character.
Yeah, like 100% agree with you. I was so not excited to see him. I did not like him at all in the comic book. I thought it was just stupid. It was like it never made sense to me. And so yeah, I felt like I'm sure there was a certain part of the fan base that was probably excited to see him. Now, conversely, I was very excited to see the Silver Samurai though, because I loved him as part of the story, especially when the X-Men went to Japan and Paul Smith drew that arc that, obviously made me fall in love with the Silver Surfer, or the Silver Samurai rather. But of course, there's that great cover of New Mutants with Viper and Silver Samurai holding up, Karma, your favorite character. Oh, isn't it?
It was Psyche at the time. Yeah, it was Danielle.
Oh, he's holding up. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Because they kidnapped her.
Now I can see it. And that's a beautifully drawn cover.
It's a beautifully drawn cover. And the next one where you see Cannonball rushing to her rescue and she's holding Wolfsbane on the cover and he's messing up the logo because he's bursting through the New Mutants logo. I always loved when they did stuff like that with the logos where they like incorporate that into the action.
I agree. Like I always say that like when I'm reviewing like comic books, and I focus on the art, like I feel like what older comics like from our generation, the comics that we love fully took advantage of the format of comic books, of what makes comics as a visual medium special. There are certain tricks of the trade that you can do, and I feel like modernization has tried to eliminate some of those things as far as like wanting it to have a more what they call a cinematic look, like with more like widescreen panels and not using thought balloons and
I'm so glad you said that. I'm like, go back to the way it was. My gosh.
I mean, I feel like that's what made comic books so much fun is, we can like reading Spider-Man's inner angst about, having to get home to Aunt May or whatever. And, just like Stan Lee or Chris Claremont's flowery exposition, like, I don't know, just making us part of the story and just really engaging us, and I feel like it just made it more of an experience reading the comic book, more something that would stay with you. Whereas like a modern comic book can be read in like 5 minutes and is largely forgettable, So like it's good to have something to sink your teeth into.
And when they incorporated that into the actual story, like when Jean goes up against Dark Phoenix goes up against Professor X in that Psy War at the end of Uncanny 136, and then she up those circuit breakers, and you think she's back to Jean, and Phoenix has been purged from her body. Scott picks her up from the ground and says, I love her no matter what, for better or for worse, for richer, for poorer. And she says, if I'm not mistaken, I could swear those thoughts I just picked up were a marriage proposal. So they incorporated his thought bubble with her telepathy, and he's like, what do you say? And she says, I say yes, and I'm gonna have one of those moments again. But it was great. It was great. And I just wish we could get back to that.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the beauty of comics, and that's like what, why we will always like forever be beholden to Claremont's X-Men. It's just like you said, the vapors. It's just,
what we forgot to talk about was Sunspot's mother, because I know you're a Sunspot fan.
I did not love I don't know why. Like, is this how she? I feel like this is not how she acted in the comic book, right?
No, super supportive because his dad was the one who freaked out when he became. Well, I mean, okay, you see him dragged off by a bunch, a stadium full of soccer fans or football or whatever they call it in Rio. Um,
And
and
maybe they didn't want to have too many storylines going at once. But they she's an old white lady mom in the
right,
comic book, and I feel like
yeah, she's already,
I feel like having him being a mixed race adds another layer to his character that instead of having his mom just be this snobby, like, are they Brazilian?
they're Portuguese, but they from
Portuguese?
Brazil.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I'm so confused about I've always been confused about
But
that.
well, his dad was Portuguese. His mom may be from Portugal, but she was, I don't, or she could have been from someplace else and married his dad because he was called half breed, I think, at one point in time. It was
Yeah, I
X-Men
remember
was
that. Yeah.
always so good, or X-Men New Mutants was always so good about dealing with racial issues.
That's what I'm saying. Like I felt like I feel like I like that was like immediately part of his introduction as a character, being called that slur when they're playing soccer, I believe. Like
Yes.
when we first meet the character, so in the graphic novel. So yeah, like that. So that's kind of why I didn't like it. And also the fact that, like, don't we have enough like unsupportive parents? Like it kind of would have been nice to see her accurate, like, I don't know.
It'd be interesting when if his father gets introduced, maybe to show he's supportive as a twist on the comic book versions. Because, yeah, just the fact that his mother is, and she's kind of like, did I miss something? Is she kind of in it with the Prime Sentinels? Because they
Yeah, there is
drag
something slippery about her, I feel. Yeah, she
drag
definitely
Smiley off with collars on.
I know, what the F, right? That was
And I'm like,
like
okay, you're worst mother ever right now. I mean, and
I
Mystique has
know.
been.
I mean,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. Oh, I know. Where is Mystique? Do you think it's Val Cooper?
I still think it's Val Cooper. Absolutely.
I have to say, like, I'm loving Val Cooper, so that would make me love it even more if it really was Mystique. So that would be fun because it's like she's been here all along. It
And
was Agatha all along.
I read this an entertainment article from the showrunner saying that season one, who has parted ways, blah blah blah, said that he wanted to cast Catherine Disher, the original voice of Jean Grey from X-Men the Animated Series, as Val Cooper for a specific reason. Val has a very interesting arc in our first season, I will say. He said it in February. I remember when I first met Catherine, I was like, you'll be delivering the thesis of the series in this one particular episode, and we are going to be building it very carefully throughout these episodes. To me, she has such the heart of the original series. To have her deliver the thesis felt right to me.
Well, she had that, white woman
Magneto,
guilt
right?
moment.
And then the Magneto was right speech, right?
Right, yeah.
That
I
led to
know.
the
That was
EM,
like
the
so
Pulse.
powerful. Yeah, I know. That was like beyond powerful.
And
Um,
after Magspeedo did that, um,
Magspeedo.
there was a
Hashtag Magspeedo.
hashtag Magspeedo. Follow our new website.
Oh, yeah, wow. Oh, yeah, good idea. Like you could start selling Speedos for men over 70.
um, so anyway, when that happened, question online was, and there was probably many people at this question, why, when he did that, did Cable not get affected? Since they've established that these Prime Sentinels pretty much share the same DNA as Cable, because the techno-organic virus is being introduced into their biology, into their genes. So when I rewatched the episode, I have an answer to that question. Anyone who is watching or listening, Jean had Cable and Scott in her telekinetic force bubble when the pulse went out. So her TK bubble shielded Cable from the effects.
Works for me. I mean, that sounds solid. I mean, if they need a no prize or whatever, or if they need a MacGuffin, or maybe that's the real answer. I mean, do you think like I feel like sometimes there are flaws to be found, but other times things are intentional or there might be reasons for them, right?
Yeah.
Like
I
I
think this
feel
was
it.
thought out. Probably
Yeah.
this look was intentional when you go back and like, okay, because you see the waves and you see he's clearly inside the bubble, so it just makes sense. You know, seeing Nightcrawler fight with three swords, I always love when he gets to use the prehensile tail. That's just good baked goodness right in.
For me, Nightcrawler was kind of like a standout of this episode. Like I really enjoyed seeing Nightcrawler in action. Um, he's always been one of my favorite characters, and I've never really enjoyed. Well, I can't say that, but I've not enjoyed in the past his animated depiction as much as I enjoyed this one. I have to say, like, I think this is one of the best versions of Nightcrawler live action or animated I've ever seen.
He's I
Oh,
yes, I do like this version because it's my Nightcrawler.
yeah, that's probably why I feel that way too.
Now, X-Men Evolution, which I've told you before, and I'll keep saying it, probably
Which
my
I
favorite.
do love I love the aesthetic on that. So I think I
The
will
Nightcrawler,
watch.
that's the worst thing in the series for me. I couldn't stand him.
Oh,
He is so annoying.
I think you mentioned that. And that's
Yeah.
a shame. So they basically made him like the Jughead or the
They made him like just we know that Nightcrawler was always like a Joker, but they made him like the Jughead. It was too much, and
yeah,
it,
like there's a borderline between like prankster and unlikable, you know what I mean?
yeah, it was
Mm.
like Changeling from New Teen Titans times 10.
Yeah, like I mean, looking back on Changeling, like as much as I liked him, I sort of found him like kind of irritating, right? With like his
Well, yeah,
constant quips and
until Tara died, really, how much relevance did he have?
not much. He was just kind of like the Eddie Haskell of
You
the
know,
team, I guess.
but he served a purpose. He was there, just like
But I
you know,
mean, once again, I always loved him, so don't get me
yeah.
wrong.
And I always loved that George Perez liked to draw chest hair on everybody, even 16-year-old green boys.
True. I know, yeah, Gar was very hairy for a 16-year-old,
He
right?
was,
I mean,
but,
I mean, he was Beast Boy, so it's sort of
he was,
like if that was the intention,
there
then
was
he,
definitely a formula back then. It was like hairy chests, gorgeous men, a lot of perms, a lot of Brady perms because
I mean,
Jer-
these are men who are
you know,
coming into their sexuality in the
Jericho had
70s.
Donna Troy's older husband of the inappropriate age range had that big red fro. I mean, red fro.
Bro, I almost think Red Fro would be like a really good name for a character, but maybe not in the X-Men. Now, you know, I was very excited to see. Oh, here's what I was thinking. Okay, so I feel like, on one hand, they're throwing in these Easter eggs. They could be like possible, like, these are things that they could expound upon in next season, correct? Like, I feel like Morph is sort of like a test in a way. Like some of the characters, actually, I find it kind of irritating, to be honest with you. I feel like sometimes it's distracting. Like him becoming Juggernaut and just like being the Juggernaut. That was just kind of weird for me. Um,
But apparently, a Prime Sentinel can take down Juggernaut because he didn't get very far.
right. So does he have their full powers or does he not? I mean, it's just kind of slippery, whatever. But then again, at the same time, it's kind of fun to see these characters as well. Like, we got to see Magic, we got to see Spiral, we got to see it was fun to see
Rachel,
Juggernaut,
Rachel.
who, well, she wasn't Morph though,
No,
but
we
yeah.
saw an Easter of her in the future. But here was my thing about when Morph had that great line about, so this is another dystopian future where Logan's like the only one alive. And then he's like, who was it? Who was explaining the future? Was it when he said not utopia, dystopia, utopia? Who was explaining the future at that point in time? God, I can't remember. That was explaining it to the X-Men at the mansion.
Was it? Oh, was it Bastion's mother? No.
No, because someone was explaining it to the X-Men. It wasn't Magneto. Oh, it was Cable before him and Jean and Scott took off for his mom's house. Um, so when he was like, not dystopia, utopia, but I'm like, how is that a utopia? Because it looked like mutants were being forced to work by Sentinels.
I'm sorry, I've lost my connection with my headset.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna do it the old fashioned. So what was the question? I'm sorry.
I said my question was when he was talking about the dystopian future, but Cable said no, Bastion caused a utopian future where, but he's like mutants who survived ended up doing what, and you see those scenes with Lorna and Rachel, and it looks like a happy future in part, but it looks like they're being ordered to do what they're doing by Sentinels in the background. So I don't think it didn't seem like a utopia for mutants. It seemed like maybe a utopia for humans, the humans who controlled the Sentinels. I don't know. It just that explanation of utopia just didn't seem like it was very utopian. That was just my issue with that. So maybe they'll explain that in greater detail. I was just happy to see Lorna and Rachel. So
I know that was like great to see Lorna. Now you had mentioned her Shire costume from the X-Men. The purple one with like the big funky like black collar.
the looking outfit almost. Or Lalandra. It was kind of a Lalandra looking outfit.
Yeah, it was very like, I mean, Dave Cockrum all over the place, right?
Hey, one of the best costume designers ever. And then, can you still hear okay?
No, I know. I'm sorry. I'm having technical issues. I mean, not really, but oh, wait. Okay. I'm sorry. Let's see. I'm just hoping that like it picks me up okay because I can't hear you great, but I can still hear you.
Okay, just let me know when you want me to continue.
Let me try something 1 second. Oh, okay. Say something.
Okay, I can hear you better.
Oh, okay. That's way better. Okay, we'll do it this way.
So, you still good?
Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to, I don't know. Anyway, I mean, I maybe like, is there a new iPhone or something coming out? Like, I feel like maybe my phone's telling me, forcing me to buy a new one or something, but probably not. I mean, I'm pretty good shape with the iPhone 13. Do you have an iPhone or a?
I have a 14 Pro Max.
Oh, okay.
The 15 is being marketed right now, so yes, you might be eligible for an upgrade.
Yeah, true.
But
Okay, I'm
did
sorry.
you notice?
I gotta stop track.
Mhm.
We were talking about someone just or what? Okay,
We were
so
talking about a utopian future that didn't look very utopian because Sentinels seem to be controlling mutants' actions. So
oh,
I
I
was a
know.
little confused about that.
That was strange, right? I know. Like I like humans just never. It, like it's just you're screwed if you're a mutant. That was
Exactly.
also. I mean, that was also kind of like gutting too. Wow, mutants are the next evolution, and Bastion's already here, like trying to eradicate them and like either like I don't know upgrade them or mutate them or make them obsolete. Like I was like, wow, like where does that put humans? Like so much further down the chain, you know what I mean?
Because he said in 100 years, like there's 10 times more mutants than humans in the future. So that's why I guess he's creating these primes to, give humans the edge, so they can, have offspring that can compete with mutants or, who knows? It's just, all these master plans. And, that shadowy woman figure that was on the monitor after Baron Zemo and Doom, do you think that was Cassandra Nova?
I wondered that myself. And I guess I feel like, have they kind of been hinting at her? Maybe you know, here's what I feel like. Okay, so we don't have much time. You know what I mean? We have to bring home this epic. My God, though, like how? Okay, so we have 2 episodes left. We ended with Xavier's return, which it was inevitable. I feel like that's gonna, set the stage for season 2. Genosha's been obliterated. So Xavier is gonna have to like save the day. Still no Storm yet. I'm hoping next episode. I know we will
Is
get
he
her
walking from Texas to New York? Goddess.
hiking. My God, like I know, like I don't understand.
Did I miss where she saw what happened in Genosha on the news and she was like hopping the next jet stream out of there?
Like, did her and Forge just go to like a Red Roof Inn, or like what is happening here? Like
God, I hope so.
she needs the cavalry. I mean, Xavier got there quicker from like several dimensions or whatever.
Exactly. From space, the final frontier.
I mean,
I,
yeah, it's irresponsible at best. I mean,
I mean,
she's like,
unless they
wow, I could
like
have really
she got
helped out.
on the way by a Prime Sentinel and she's been held hostage, there is just no excuse for her not to be there.
No, none whatsoever. She should be ashamed of herself. There's no excuse. They should not be excited when she shows up. They should be like, where the hell have you been?
And you saw that they confirmed that Madeline died because Jean brought that.
Well, okay, so that is my question. Okay, like have they ever like explored so Cable, or is there still questions? Like, how does this bitch not know if she was pregnant or not? Like we don't know if the switch happened or whatever.
No,
Anyway,
they've
so
established Madeline had Cable.
Madeline birthed Cable
Yes.
and Jean birthed Rachel. So are they half brothers?
You mean
No,
sibling?
it's Jean's her clone. So
Jean's clone, so they're biologically 100% siblings as far as like how their genes go. Genes, yeah. Gene 1, Gene 2. Yeah, so they would be, yeah, I mean, technically you could say they're half siblings because they have different mothers, but their mothers are genetic clones of each other, or genetic kids. So I would consider them full siblings because
right. Like I just saw this article. This is important. Or not important, but it's relevant. They're identical twin brothers, married identical twin sisters. So genetically, their children will be siblings, like as far as DNA is considered.
Yeah, they'd be, instead of first cousins, they'd be closer in DNA because they came from the same. I hate to say this, I'm not trying to be derogatory. The same litters.
No, I agree. Yeah, that makes sense. Wouldn't it be crazy if like they looked like if they did have kids? I'd be so curious to see like, and if they looked like identical to each other, that would be crazy. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I've always like loved the twin characters in comic books, like the Wonder Twins, Aurora and North Star, Pedro and Wanda, like have always been like, are there more?
Fenris.
Oh, Fenris, for God's sakes. I do love Fenris. Oh my gosh. Like they haven't made many other appearances in their crazy like orange coats and like that, like I feel like there are certain characters like Tommy that nobody can draw like John Romita Jr. And speaking of which, I feel like, and this is just once again my nostalgia. I think we talked about this before, where we think they're referencing something, and maybe it's just because it reminds us of something in the comic book. But there was a shot of Val Cooper that very much looked like perhaps like a John Romita Jr. version of Val Cooper. Like I think it looked like a lot like her. Sometimes I see a lot of his art in this show.
Well, I think I was first introduced to her character via him. Did she make appearances before Uncanny, or was she created specifically in
I
Uncanny for the
think
Rogue
that
story?
no, I think that she was definitely probably created for Uncanny. Like I don't think she appeared in Miss Marvel or um anything like that or Spider-Woman first.
Okay, cool. I mean, I'll look it up later, but I want to say she's
I'm curious
a
to know.
your creation because he doesn't get credited for creating a lot of X characters because a lot of the characters he wrote were already there. In my opinion, he created Rachel. Now you're going to ask me, why do you say that when she appeared in Days of Future Past 141 and 142 of Uncanny X-Men? Because his Rachel cannot be that Rachel. His Rachel is from a different alternate future because the Rachel in Days of Future Past never knew Charles Xavier. He was assassinated on Halloween of 1980. The Rachel that we saw come back in time, in New Mutants 18, which takes place at the same time as Uncanny 184 when Selene goes after her. That
Yes.
Rachel came from the future where she saw Professor X slaughtered in front of her during an army raid on the X Mansion when she was around 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So there was already a divergent timeline. They thought that they didn't change the future in Days of Future Past, but they clearly had to change some very key elements.
Yeah. I know that was interesting right away. I know she was yeah, that was I like Rachel is very much a tragic character, but I've always loved her so much. But yeah, the horror of her like feeling like she came to the wrong timeline was like you just felt so much for her, you know what I mean?
I think that's the one. Her and Storm, I think, got the most sympathy out of me, and Rogue probably for a little while, because she has the most tragic power for until they introduced characters like Chamber, who's blew off his own face. You know,
Yeah, he was kind of weird, right? Like, yeah, that was just creepy. Like the generation were very much like almost like body horror like characters with the
yeah,
skin.
Mondo, you had Penance.
Even Husk, like
Uh,
shedding her skin was kind of gross, and Skin was like,
but she
yeah, they
could
were
maybe
all.
end up be the same age underneath, so she would maybe like Mystique and not age as much.
And then, of course, in the middle of it all, the beautiful, flawless, uppity Monet, my
She
favorite.
she was my favorite. I
Of
loved Monet.
course, of
Uh,
course.
I think that's a sign of certain things that we don't need to discuss right now. But yes, it's kind of like yeah.
I,
Oh, by the way, my sister said something the other day that you would love. We were talking about and she's now just so addicted. She binged like the first 6 episodes in the last 2 weeks. I've been reminding her it's Wednesday and she watches it. And I mean, you'll agree with half of her statement. She cannot stand Jubilee and Sunspot. Now, you love Sunspot, but you can at least agree with her on the first part.
yes, I was thinking about that, and I was like, oh yeah, that reminds me of where I possibly think this might be going. It would, and honestly, it would be a good way to set it up. So Xavier returns to the school, and with Genosha gone, they need a place to displace these, sort of like these Grant Morrison characters, so they can come to the school, and then we can have our like, what do you call it? Um, what was that stupid character, that like horrible student who like caused a riot at the school or whatever? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I
From the
do, and I
play.
can't remember the name now.
I
That
know.
was after, that was after you and I had really gone off the beaten path with
Yeah, exactly. So what I would love to see, especially since we have Sunspot, is like it would be a good time to bring in the New Mutants and you know, um, Xavier's back. Like I feel like the old X-Men, the old X-Men, the current roster don't really need him as much. So it'd be a good time to introduce, this school element again, I guess. And like then they could do the Cassandra Nova. They could do Emma Frost, and then I guess they could do, the love triangle with Scott and Emma, which gagged me. But you know that they're probably You know, they're probably gonna go there, especially like this fan base within the past, like, and I don't mean to say that so critically, I apologize, X fans. But they are all into this, like this Wolverine, Scott, Emma throuple, like, the horror. I mean,
That's a quartet now, isn't it?
God, who is the fourth one? Is it
Jean
Madeline?
Scott, Jean Scott, Wolverine, and Emma. That's a quartet. It's a quadruple.
A
Is that even a
quadruple.
word?
I know, I'm like gonna say, like, are we getting into like geometry as a what is even the word I'm looking for, sexuality? I don't know. You know, it's fine, to each their own, but I don't know. No, I don't know. As we've discussed, we've never really liked, Emma and Scott together. So but I feel like it's kind of inevitable. I feel like Cassandra Nova is inevitable, especially with Xavier. What else could they do? Like, what I feel like, what are like some of the posts? I don't know. Like, what storylines do they need to revisit? Do they need to visit? Because they're gonna like blow it out with like Mr. Sinister and Bastion here, and
A lot of people seem to think that Gambit is going to come back in the final episode as Death, the Horseman of the Apocalypse.
ooh, that would be juicy, wouldn't it? Then you could introduce like Archangel. Has Archangel been in the
He
show yet?
has.
Okay. Huh.
He was in every season except season two. I had said before which seasons he was in, but I don't think he's in season two. He's in one, three, four. He might not be in five either, but he's definitely in one, three, and four.
Hmm.
And there's the continuity where you see him as a young X-Men member with the O5 over the fireplace, but in the original series, when he's introduced in season one, nobody recognizes him, and he never mentions his past time as an X-Man. And then when they have Bobby's origin, Iceman's origin, sort of shown, you see the four original X-Men being everybody but him. They just have these recaps in two other episodes where they have flashbacks where they show him in his ancient Neil Adams costume, which you probably liked because I think you like Neil Adams art. I mean, because
I
he's very
love it.
yeah. In that, that yellow one with it almost looks like they're like suspenders or something or stripes on the side or whatever.
I
Um,
can't lie. I do love that. I do
yeah,
love. Now, those are actually pretty kooky, but
yeah.
I do love those designs.
So you see him in those kind of flashbacks, but I don't know if it was just the matter the animators weren't paying attention because it just contradicts. It's X-Men continuity that's a little out there. So it's like seeing the Fox Men movies, one to the next. I got nothing. It all was a
Are
jumble.
you not a fan of the Neil Adams X-Men? Like, have you ever
No, I
read that?
am talking about in the cartoon when they showed
Oh,
him in flashbacks in the Neil Adams outfit. It goes against the continuity of the cartoon where none of the X-Men have ever recognized him before, and they treat him like he's a noob, not like he was an original member.
oh,
So I have a theory that if they want to reintroduce the fact that he was an O5 member, that at some point in time, Professor X wiped his and the X-Men's memory because he went off to lead a normal life. And he didn't want to, be cursed because you see him in the first season trying to get rid of his wings because he doesn't want them. He doesn't want to be a freak. So
yeah.
maybe Professor X did some mental mojo, and that's why the other X-Men didn't recognize him. Kind of like Rogue all of a sudden being Magneto's foster child / girlfriend. Which
Just have a way with words that makes it sound so I don't know, wrong, I guess. But
what's inappropriate?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, not his foster child, his apprentice / girlfriend in high school. Anyway, did you notice? Huh? Did you notice that? Yeah, apprentice. Did you notice that Jean is exhibiting some long shot powers because when she was like touching things in Bastion's room, I'm like, isn't that what was long shot's power called? Psychometry, where he could feel the past or whatever based on the emotions or whatever by things that people have touched. And I just don't remember telepathy ever working that way. So,
well, actually, that's that thing, a thing that real psychics, real psychics, but you know how like you can hand a psychic your keys and they can pick up the energy from it and give you
Mhm.
a read that way. So I feel like, yeah, like I don't know, maybe is I don't know, yeah, convenient, right? But so she should be able to pick up on the psychic energy of objects as well, right? Why not?
Usually, it's like that's not how I ever
Because I
remember.
feel like I'm hippy dippy, so like I believe, and I believe that the X-Men do have enhanced abilities, but I do think psychic powers are kind of one of those things that everyone has. So I feel like some people's are just more developed than others, but I think like you can put like um negative energy into something, you know what I mean? And then somebody can absorb it. So
It just seemed like, normally I always thought her telepathy worked based on there had to be an active brain nearby for her to read the mind, not that there was impressions left on inanimate objects. That's more of like a destiny thing, isn't it? With her precognition.
yeah, I agree though. Like I do find it sometimes irritating when they use their powers in a questionable way that just like seems like either convenient or like just like egregious, like taking advantage of like, oh, why, or maybe not understanding how her powers work, you know what I mean?
And
So
is Jean having some identity issues? Because last week she had her matty hair. This week she has the pony back. So, hmm.
yeah, I think that she definitely well, like is the pony like tells us she's Jean, right?
Typically, yeah, that's how they, kind of made us establish who was whom, who was
Okay,
who
right. So
before Madeline.
who's whom? Could you imagine if DC's a bug was called Who's Whom?
Mhm. but
That is terrible. Who's
but now
whom?
Madeline is, toast.
You're
She's
upset. She should we like she could come back.
she could. I mean, everybody does, except for Uncle Ben.
Do you think Mr. Sinister is gonna let her
Maybe he has a backup Madeline somewhere.
show? You know, it would behoove him as the vessel for his genetic, linchpin to I mean he has a mat on for cable, right? Like he needs cables, DNA or blood or
Yeah,
whatever.
I
I
still
like
don't
when
like
I
being.
like when old Bastion's mother called him the big one. Big one, come over.
Yeah, that didn't sound weird at all. But it was freaky though, like when Cyclops tries to blast the Prime Sentinels in the Podunk Town or whatever, and she just shrugs it off. I'm like, how are they going to get out of this one? Because I just did not see. This looked like it could have been worse than Genosha because these were just supercharged Omega Prime Sentinels or whatever, and thank goodness for Maggie.
I know this was a nail biter for sure. Like it was definitely like intense, like scary on the edge of my seat. A lot happened. And I feel like it's gonna get worse before it gets better. So I think that we are definitely in for uh, a nerve-wracking episode next week. And it,
Storm's not.
that's I was gonna say that's the most nerve-wracking part for me is like honestly I'll be kind of PO'd if like Storm doesn't come back next week because we
We need
need her.
Storm because
The best X-Men are X-Women for sure. Like I think that's no secret. Like and props to Claremont for just like doing that. You know what I mean? Like never making it an issue or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's like he just wrote really great stories that about really great characters and a lot of them happen to be women. So they were definitely my favorite X-Men. But then I say that, but then I love the men just it's a lot too. You know what I mean? I love Nightcrawler, I love Colossus, I love Wolverine, not as much, but I do love him in a way. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I love me some Colossus Nightcrawler and Wolverine before his explosion and Cyclops. All right up, up to the Paul Smith era and a little bit thereafter. But
I agree
you know,
with you. When
if
like
I
yeah,
when people ask me who are my favorite X males,
uh-huh.
I shock people because it's like, well, Forge, but the other one is Banshee. I love me some Banshee.
I you know uh, I have I can't say what I'm thinking, but I'm that's fine. I mean, I it's so weird. I feel like Banshee. I feel like there was a reason he was introduced and quickly, expelled from the X-Men.
It
Like,
took 4 years.
although I did like the way John Byrne drew him in a lot of ways. Like, I did like those issues where he came back and fought Moses Magnum
It took
with
like
them.
3 or 4 years before they depowered him in the books, though.
Yeah. That, like, why did they need to depower him? Like, what? Like, who was he hurting with that big shrill Irish scream and that crazy mutton chops and that pipe and that, whatever the hell was going on with that? I mean, it was kind of weird that his daughter was like Banshee Part Two in the same costume.
Yeah, which
Then I
it
did,
would make no sense that her uncle would give her the outfit that her dad wore when he was trying to raise her to be, an enemy against her dad. I'm like, why would you give her the same outfit?
you just to like really like grind the hand in the glass or like really put the screw to him. Not only is your daughter, I mean,
So
that
back
would suck, right?
there was an X-Men fan page that is now, it was just it was Wolverine and the X-Men, that it became X-Men the animated series. Now, it's a page on Facebook, and they used to years ago have like a trivia question of the day, and whoever got it right would get to pick the mutant of the day. And I used to get it right a lot. I got a lot of hate for this too because I always had the right answer. Like in like 15 rounds, I had won like 10 times. But my initial beginning was I picked like, I think, Siren, and then I picked Rachel, and then I picked Madeline. I just kept picking redheads for some reason. I just had this redheaded, like preference. Firestar. I just kept going with that. And
Very
Dazzler
long.
Dazzler counts as a redhead, right? She's strawberry blonde.
I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to claim her as a blonde because I'm the blonde fetish whore. Not
She got
saying
your
that
fire on today. At least your Dazzler had.
I do, and I was thinking about it. I was okay, so I had decried this version of Dazzler as not one of my favorite Dazzlers, but then I'm rethinking it because it feels very inspired by the Paul Chadwick version and her comic where they were trying to make her more of a superhero with like the leather jacket and the headband and the blue costume. And so I really did enjoy a lot of that run. I know it's probably not whenever
Waiting to hear back if she's one of the survivors of Genosha. We just saw her unconscious with the other dead bodies.
they cannot kill her, like they cannot do it. Like I feel like they're irresponsible with these deaths. They're gonna have to do something with it. They killed like a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think they established Sebastian Shaw is gone, and who do you call it? Callisto and Leech have to be. They look like they definitely were dead because you saw that little kind of like that not the montage, but like a little memorial picture of the two of them. And we don't know what happened to the other Morlocks that Magneto was protecting before he was allegedly killed, and then brought into the dungeon basement of inappropriate happening.
I know. I mean, I can't. Like,
Action is a freak. That's all I can say.
I know. I'm like,
I don't mean
what?
of nature. I'm not talking about its genetics.
I know. you know, a lot of I guess Bo DeMeo was, you know, uh no, I'm not even gonna, I can't. I'm just gonna say I don't know what, you know, next. What, a bathhouse? I don't know.
Please follow our new web,
Where
Magspeedo.com. Hashtag.
uh,
So next week, let's just pray Storm comes back and
guys,
Roberto divorces his mother. You know, kind of like what was that
maybe
movie with
maybe
Drew
we'll get
Barrymore?
lucky. Yeah.
Irreconcilable differences. Let him divorce his parents.
Well, I mean, I feel like it would be easier to kill her off, but you know, maybe she doesn't have to die. She could just be an a-hole. Um, so yeah, Storm definitely has to come back. Um, you know, they're reunited with Savior. Um,
Jubilee never goes to a mall again.
I mean, I don't know, like, but do you feel like, are we gonna get like, I don't know, God, a lot can still happen, but are we gonna get like some big cliffhanger at the end of the season? We probably are. It's gonna be like some big cliffhanger. Uh,
I'm wondering if it's going to be like the first season where everything seems to be resolved, and then you have something waiting in the wings. you know, very
that's, you
classic.
know what? That's how I think it's actually gonna end. I think that like we're gonna get the big climax with this whole storyline happening now. Like it's gonna hit the fan big time. And then once the dust settles, they're, you know, gonna reestablish, oh, maybe they'll do like a My Two Dad situation and Magneto and Charles can rule the school together. Or uh would we see like a return to Magneto as a villain? Like that would be kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm hoping. I'm kind of. It would be like the comics where he'd be going backwards, but and in the comics you don't have as much time to. I mean, in the cartoon you don't have as much time to flesh it out. Because
Right.
they cram 3 or 4 story arcs into an episode, but they do it really well. And
Yeah.
this is the thing, and I don't mean to really get off topic here, but what they are doing in this series is what DC should be doing in the Crisis on Infinite Earths movies.
Oh, it should be a series for sure, right?
Well, we've already gotten it's 3 movies that are going to total out to be like 4.5 to 5 hours long once you watch them from beginning to end, because each
Yeah.
movie is like an hour and 35. They have now done 2 movies at an hour and 35 each, and hardly anything has happened. Where X-Men in their Fire Made Flesh episode crammed like 4 stories into like 30 minutes. Was it a little rushed? Ever so slightly. Did it give us a lot of what we wanted? Absolutely. Did it make us say, oh man, there wasn't enough intensity or enough action? Oh, hell no. It was the perfect blend of drama and action.
Well, I guess as usual, Marvel or DC can take a cue from Marvel. So, you know, I know. You know, but a lot of those DC cartoons are actually pretty good. So it's unfortunate that they are dropping the ball in Crisis, but
I thought before the Tomorrowverse, I thought they were excellent. The DC AU animated universe that
right.
led up to Apocalypse War, which, oh my God, you want to talk intense? I call that the JLA snuff film. it's that's like just when you think someone's oh no, they're gone. So you
Right.
would, and the Kerry Russell Wonder Woman movie that holds a very
You
special
know,
place.
that I will tell you that I felt I loved that so much, and it stopped me in my tracks because I was like, wow. I was like, this should have been the script for the Wonder Woman movie. It is like the perfect Wonder Woman movie.
It
And
was.
even though it's an animation, like just like they nailed the whole story and it was done so well. And I love the tease of the cheetah at the end. It was just perfection for me. So yeah, so it's unfortunate that hopefully when they reintroduce Wonder Woman to the DC cinematic universe, they give me a better version that I like more.
I was fine with her intro in BVS in her first movie. It was just 84 that was lacking, but that's the controversial topic. So
Exactly.
it's a love or hate relationship.
Well, it looks like we're coming to the end of our episode. And so, is there anything you want to throw in here? Any nuggets? Anything you want to say about next week or any this week before we end?
No, I mean, just like I said, my biggest ask is for, Storm to return and, basically, hopefully they will give once Magneto puts some clothes on, maybe bring him from the North Pole to the mansion so they can, strategize their next play because, clearly they're going to need him to take down Bastion.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder why Bastion didn't kill him if he was going to be such a threat to his Operation Zero Tolerance.
Well, because he needs him for his BDSM.
As I finished that last sentence, I was like, yep, went there. Yeah, yep. So, yes. And, I don't think I would have enjoyed this episode 1/10 as much without Magspeedo.
Magspeedo. I think that's the perfect way to end. Everybody, hashtag Magspeedo. You heard it here first. Philip coined the phrase to recognize this sort of interesting era for Magneto in the crossover world. I don't even know how to describe it, but anyway, so we will be back next week for hopefully the return of Storm and another exciting episode of X-97 because it was so good this week and I so enjoyed it. And as usual, it was fun catching up with you, Philip, and we will chat again next week.
Thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Take care, guys. Bye.